Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian Podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. This is Season 13, Episode 8. Today I'm speaking with a couple of local authors, Carey Jones and John McCarthy. Carey Jones is a food and spirits writer who has traveled the world to report on cocktails and spirits. She previously served as the managing editor of Serious Eats, and her work has appeared in Food and Wine, Travel and Leisure, and Saveur, among many others. Every Cocktail Has a Twist is her third cocktail book, and her second co-authored with her husband, John McCarthy. Carey lives in Sonoma County, California. John McCarthy is a mixologist and spirits writer who has appeared in Good Morning America and Today.com, among many other media outlets. Every Cocktail Has a Twist is his second cocktail book co-authored with his wife, Carey, after a 2018 release of their Be Your Own Bartender. He lives in Sonoma County, California also. They have a new book out, Every Cocktail Has a Twist. Master 25 classic drinks and craft more than 200. That is available for purchase today through all outlets, and you can get it at all better bookstores as well. We're going to have a link for that and their previous book in the bio. Check that out. We're also going to be including some listings for appearances if you live in the Bay Area. Without further ado, I'm going to take you to my conversation with the wonderful Carey Jones and John McCarthy. Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian Podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. Today I'm speaking with locals Carey Jones and John McCarthy. Carey and John, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Now, your book, Every Cocktail Has a Twist, Master 25 Classic Drinks and Crafts, more than 200 variations, is going to be out on the 7th. Are you really excited about this release date and having this book come out?
We are, absolutely. This
Super
has been a labor of love for the last 3 years or so, and we're excited to get to the moment where it's really in people's hands.
Now, I want to start off, before we start talking about the book, can we talk about you two a little bit? Where are you from and where do you live now?
So we live in Sonoma County, so we're, pretty close to you, not too far.
Yep.
We met in New York City more than 10 years ago, and John's a career mixologist, and I'm a writer. I write about food, travel, spirits, kind of anything in that realm. The way we met is actually that I wrote about a bar program John was doing, so I reviewed him.
Yeah,
that's the joke.
The joke is she reviewed me.
And we started writing together a few years later. We had a column for Food and Wine magazine's website that's called Liquor Cabinet Roulette that was really for the bartender. We would choose a different ingredient every week and really kind of tell people just about it and also how to make drinks with it. And this was not for other fancy mixologists.
Yeah.
This is for anyone.
For the home bartender. And we would do things like, you were out at the bar and you saw that bottle and the bartender told you about it, or it was, in the drink, but you have no idea what it is. Like, for example, Campari. But we do like more esoteric things too. But, and then we would make 3 drinks: easy, medium, hard. And hard would be like, or advanced would be like, using an egg or muddling or something like that. Whereas easy would be,
Campari and soda with an orange.
Highball,
delicious.
And so we kind of take people through what to do with that product, and we did it for 7 years. And out of that, we did our first book, Be Your Own Bartender.
Yeah, I want to talk about that book a little bit. Be Your Own Bartender came out in 2018. Can we talk about this book a little bit and why you decided to write it?
Absolutely. So we like to call it the world's first flowchart cocktail book. It's divided into chapters by base spirits. So, tequila, rum, things like that. But the start of every chapter is a flowchart to help you find your perfect drink. So it might be things as simple as, do you have a lot of time for this drink? Or do you want a highball you can put together in 2 seconds? And is this just for you? Is it for a party? Is this for a brunch in spring, or a dinner party for New Year's Eve, stuff like that.
Like in the whiskey, I think there's a flow in the flow chart. It's like, are you sitting alone by the fireplace, or are you sitting with someone by the fireplace?
And
I like that. That. That's a good addition. That's a really good idea.
Because it's a slightly different drink.
You're going to make a different drink,
And we think there's so many great cocktail books out there, but sometimes as a user, as a reader, you're just confronted with 100 recipes and you don't know where to start. And so something we really wanted to do in Be Your Own Bartender, we think flowcharts are fun because we're nerds. In a fun way is just really get people engaged and say, well, okay, what kind of drink do I want? And then flip to that page and maybe it's something you like and kind of go from there.
It like empowers the reader too to kind of make their own choices as opposed to just getting a textbook thrown in your face and trying to figure out what to make,
Well, yeah, I mean, the old Mr. Boston, I think, was the standard for a lot of people that they had if they wanted to have a bartending guide. And it was kind of the opposite of what you guys did. It was just like, name of a drink, this is the ingredients. Name of a drink, this is the ingredients. And you're like, do I have this? Do I not have it? Do I have to go out and get something? But this is the opposite, right? This is kind of like, it's an index. Kind of almost, you guys are kind of like picking up, I think, the librarian vibe a little bit with indexing and cataloging. It's kind of like almost like a card catalog for people who like to make drinks. I like that.
It is. And in Be Your Own Bartender in particular, if we use an ingredient that's a little bit unusual, say pamplemousse, which is a grapefruit liqueur we love, at the end of that cocktail recipe, we'll say, well, hey, if you liked pamplemousse, here are 3 other places you can use it in the book. So it's all about accessibility.
Yeah, we made a real point in both books, in our new book as well. Every cocktail has a twist. If we ask you to go buy something, if you have to go buy something to use to make a drink, we're going to have more than one drink for you to make in the book. Like if you have to go get an ingredient, it's like a point of pride to make sure that there's 1 or 2 more at least drinks that you can make with that ingredient.
So you're not stuck with a 95% full bottle for the rest of eternity.
Well, yeah, that's a really good point you guys make, because I'm one of the several people who had a hard time finding Campari in the last few years. And when I did finally get a bottle of Campari, I was like, all right, I can make an Negroni, I could make a Campari and soda. What the hell else can I do with this? And I still have a largely almost more than half full bottle. And I like cooking with it and stuff, but I was kind of like, well, what else can I do with this? And you guys are providing a great index for this. Like, the kind of like, if you like this, let's also try this. And I like that. It's very good.
That's very much the idea.
That's our goal.
Your new book is Every Cocktail Has a Twist. Master 25 classic drinks and craft more than 200 variations. And it's going to be out as of this airing. So what did you want to do with this, and what were your thoughts when you decided to create this book?
Well, we think that people, whether or not they tend to make cocktails at home, they probably have a sense of what their favorite drink is, or multiple favorite drinks. If you've been to bars, if you order cocktails, if you're a martini person or a spritz person or a Negroni person, and you might be all of those things on different days. But these are drinks that most people, if they have, even a little bit of familiarity with cocktails, they'll have a sense of whether that's their drink or not. And so we wanted to focus on those classic drinks, as we call them, to kind of give people a place to start within the book and say, hey, if you're an old-fashioned person, here's the history of the drink, here's how to make a great one, but here are 10 other recipes that have a lot in common with that are riffs on the old-fashioned, essentially, that you'll probably also like quite a lot.
One of our thoughts with, determining classics, our thought was, you were at a bar and you heard somebody order it. Like,
and you know what it is.
Yeah, and you know what it is. You've never had a Bloody Mary, but you've heard of them. It's in culture, and you've heard people order them. You've seen it on tables, and so and another would be like an espresso martini. Maybe you've never had one, and technically, is it a classic? I mean, it's a new classic, I would say. But if you've never had one, what is it? How do you make it? And then what else can you make beyond the original?
Did you have trouble kind of narrowing it down to 25 class? How did you come up with the classic cocktail list?
A lot of discussion and debate. Yeah, I would say.
And because some are similar, it's the difference between
a gimlet and a daiquiri.
Yeah, a gimlet and a daiquiri. And like, does a Cosmo get its own chapter, or is a Cosmo a gimlet, or is a Cosmo a daiquiri?
or is it neither?
Or is it,
You don't want it. Yeah. So I think about maybe 15 of the 25 came to us pretty naturally. There's no way you would write this book without a martini, an old fashioned,
Manhattan,
things like that. But others, the margarita, exactly. That's one of our favorite chapters. But there are others that are just drinks people like. So eggnog's a great example. I don't know if the, formal books of classic cocktails would call it eggnog its own genre. They wouldn't. They'd call it a flip. But
and that was another thing we had to go to, was like, okay, how, like Carey said, technically an eggnog is a style of drink called a flip, and a flip is like, goes way back, and it just means it has an egg in it, and it's a whole egg.
But to the average drinker, eggnog is its own thing. You know exactly what eggnog is, what it tastes like. It has nutmeg. You serve it around the holidays. And so kind of tapping into something like that people have a lot of familiarity with, and then riffing on that was very much where we wanted to go for this book.
To try and one of our goals was to, again, we're always trying to make it as accessible as possible. So we had to stop ourselves from going too far down the rabbit hole and geeking out, because that's a different book. We wanted to make a book that is, the things are recognizable and accessible.
I want to really talk about your guys' sense of humor, because some of these drinks are so clever and fun, and I really get a sense of your guys' playfulness and creativity, and also your sense of humor. So I want to kind of mention a few drink names, and if you want to kind of talk about them, go ahead, and if not, we'll go to the next one. The first one is the I don't know how to pronounce this because it's got the 2 exclamation points. The Dale.
Dale.
It's an ice the Dale. Sorry. Okay, sorry. That's how to pronounce it. Okay.
Pitbull reference, right?
Okay.
I'm a big Pitbull fan, and that's kind of his catchphrase. Dale.
Okay. I'm showing my age.
Very loosely translated, just kind of means like let's go. And that's a really fun drink. We have it in the espresso martini chapter, and what it is it's kind of a cross between a great iced latte and a Caribbean rum drink. And it's just a really fun drink that has a little condensed milk to kind of pick up that Caribbean vibe, a great dark rum. And when you think about what an espresso martini is, to us, it's something that combines, a punchy cocktail with really great, rich coffee flavors. And so this just kind of takes that in a really fun, icy Caribbean direction.
Yeah, tall with either crushed or nugget ice, if possible. And
you totally put an umbrella on it.
Like that's a drink that's like, yeah, I'm having this in Miami. I'm having this in the heat.
You have some really classic stuff like pitcher Pims, which is a kind of something to make for a group. You have the delightful fun things like the pickle holiday, which is a dirty martini with a cornichon pickle. Blue cheese dill martini, which is blue cheese and dill to instilling that in your vodka. I really like the clever night watch, which is a Negroni with a dose of cold brew coffee. Do you want to talk about any of these? Also the Mr. Worldwide, which is a mojito with coconut LaCroix.
You have both of our Pitbull
references.
Out of 211 drinks. That's funny.
I like that.
You caught me. Let's see. Those are a bunch of our favorites. Where should we start? I think in our years and years and years of just playing around with different cocktails, one of the most fun flavor combinations that John discovered, actually, I was a little skeptical at first.
Yeah, you didn't believe me. I was like, this is going to be good.
The combination of Campari and coffee. And just the different,
they work so well together.
Just the different bitter notes, the complexity. There's just really a synergy there with those 2 ingredients. So kind of incorporating that into a Negroni is just a really exciting drink. We love that drink. And it's shaken.
It's shaken. And one of the like kind of the rules, not rules, is typically if something has citrus in it, you shake it. If something doesn't, it's usually stirred. That's not always the case, but it's often the case. But in that drink, when you shake any coffee, you get a thick foamy head on it. So that's shaken so that you get that froth, which is really nice.
Great drink.
As I've mentioned to you before we started recording, I think this book is going to be a really, really stellar book for the holidays. It's going to be a great, I think, kind of a no-brainer gift for people that love mixing drinks and stuff. It's going to be just a perfect gift. We have a lot of winter holiday variations that I kind of want to talk about because some of these are really stellar and very, very fun and inventive. First off, I want to talk about the the Run Run Rudolph.
That's a fabulous drink. That's what our joke is, that that's what Santa Claus really wants you to put out on Christmas Eve. You know, it's not the carrots for the reindeer. It's not a cookie. Like, what he really wants is an Irish coffee eggnog. So that kind of starts from our classic eggnog base, and then goes in an Irish coffee direction with some whiskey and some great coffee liqueur. And it's everything you like about an eggnog, but with this, you know, kind of the guts of an Irish coffee. That's a fun drink.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Now you have some really inventive ways with eggnog. Do you want to talk about the different variations? Because I'm looking at a list and there's not just a couple things. There's a lot of different things with eggnog on here that are really clever. Do you want to kind of talk about how the versatility of eggnog and how you like to use it?
Yeah, well, the first thing we worked on was just the different methods to make your eggnog base. Because there's the, you know, traditional way where you're separating your egg whites from your egg yolks and you're folding them back in together and making it fresh, and you know, you're making it and then drinking it as soon as it's cold enough, which has its own light, fluffy quality to it. But then there's a great method we have where you put everything into a blender and hit pulse and, you know, mix it all up and you have instant eggnog base, which is really easy.
And especially because if you're making eggnog, it's probably not one. You're probably making it for a party.
And you can make it ahead of time. And you can make it, we mentioned a drink, there's a classic style of drink that's called the flip, when you add a whole egg. Well, if you just do a whole egg and some half and half or heavy cream, you can, in a cocktail shaker, make an eggnog, you know, a la minute, as they say, just right away. Another thing with the eggnog too is when you add the alcohol, acts as a preservative, so you can age eggnog, which sounds like what, there's eggs in there, but the alcohol will preserve it, and aged eggnog is fantastic.
We've had month-old eggnog, older. I think we made some eggnog in July last year that we served
and had
to
Christmas,
family and friends, and
over the holidays. It was very fantastic.
Keep
it refrigerated. You know,
definitely keep it refrigerated.
Keep it refrigerated. But the alcohol preserves it, and it's fantastic.
You guys also have other things for the winter holidays too, and I know that Sonoma gets all that fog and gets very cold, chilly in the winter time. You have some nice hot drinks like hot toddies and things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. We love a classic hot toddy, just, you know, whiskey, honey, lemon, hot water. That's kind of all you need, but it's also a really fun just template to play with. And, you know, 95% of drinks you'll get out there are chilled, served over ice, and, you know, that's all well and good, but there's a lot you can do in the hot cocktail world that people might not know about. And so you can certainly have whiskey as the base for a hot toddy, but there's so many other spirits you can as well. One that we really love is called the Jack Rose toddy. And so that's a play on a early 20th century classic called the Jack Rose, that's made with Applejack, an American apple brandy, grenadine, and citrus juice. And so the way we kind of do a riff on it as a hot drink is it has a base of that Applejack. And then originally grenadine was essentially a reduced pomegranate syrup. So not the bright red stuff you get in Shirley Temple's, but something a good bit more sophisticated. So to pick up on that, together with the Applejack, we do a bit of 100% pomegranate juice. Then with hot water and a little citrus, that's a great drink.
Yeah.
And just so many fall winter flavors between the apple and the pomegranate.
And there's with hot toddies, there's a soothing, you know, cuddly, you know, like there's something that it makes you feel good. You know, it makes you feel warm and cozy, you know, like somebody's giving you a hug when you're sipping on a hot toddy.
I love that. You guys also have some great ways with champagne drinks for the New Year's Eve holiday. Can you talk about some of those variations as well?
Well, we love bubbles.
We do love bubbles.
We are bubble people.
And I think that when you think about sparkling cocktails, you might not expect them to be good for parties because, of course, as soon as you pour out the bubbles, they start to dissipate. But we actually love serving them for events. And what we do is so the word batch is bartender parlance for basically just put together ahead of time. we batch all the other ingredients. So for a French 75, for example, that would mean that in advance, we combine gin, the lemon juice, the simple syrup. We get that all together in a bottle. We chill it. We chill our champagne. And then to pour out drinks for a party, you just, you have your base, your batch, and then you tap it with a little bit of bubbles. And we love serving drinks that way throughout the year. If we throw a party, you're definitely getting a sparkling cocktail.
Yeah. Who doesn't want a bubbly cocktail?
Yeah, there's just something really festive
especially at a party. It makes you feel light and bubbly.
Yeah, it makes you feel like the Great Gatsby.
Exactly.
You also have a great selection of citrus drinks for the holidays. I really like this. I always like to do solstice celebrations, and this to me seems like it could be the perfect thing for a solstice celebration. Can you talk about some of the citrus influenced beverages you have for the holidays?
Absolutely. So we just spoke about French 75s. And so kind of the template we look at for that. So the classic is gin or cognac, lemon and sugar, and then with a big pour of sparkling wine. So when we look at that kind of in a broader sense, we're thinking, okay, what's a drink in that kind of sour style that you can then top with bubbles? So we can swap out the citrus, we can swap out we can swap out the sweetener, we can swap out the spirit, things like that. So we have a really fun drink called with bells on that stars blood orange juice. And like we're Californians, and so winter citrus is just absolutely where it's at. And so it's pretty close to a traditional French 75, but we use both blood orange juice and a little bit of pomegranate juice. And then some orange bitters to balance that all out, and then a big pour of sparkling wine. And so you just get this gorgeous, gorgeous color from both the blood orange juice and the pomegranate. But
yeah, that's a great party drink.
That's a great party drink. But just there's nothing like those winter citrus flavors. You get them and they're gone, but there's nothing you can compare a ripe blood orange to or a Meyer lemon to. They're just their own creatures.
Their own thing.
I want to talk a little bit about, you have a lot of listings here, summer drinks too. And then as well, there's information on making drinks for larger occasions. And I think this kind of talks, we talked about this a bit with the pitcher drinks and stuff like that. You can kind of prepare in large occasions and weddings. Can you talk about that a little bit and what you wanted to do with that to help people out who might be serving a lot of people, but don't want to be, tied down to the bar all day?
Yeah, we, well, in my work, doing events and such, when I have to make, cocktails for 300 people or 100 people or 50 people, to do that one at a time everybody's gonna be waiting a long time for those drinks.
Yeah.
So I would do as much as I could ahead of time, and we do that now for at home. Pre-batching is what we call it, and we try to do for the book every drink that we can to show you how you can take this drink, multiply it by 4, 6, 12, and get it all set ahead of time, so that you really just have to do the last finishing touches. Like if the best is like when we talk about like sparkling drinks, we'll have everything batched out in a bottle, and then we can just pour that over ice, add the sparkling wine, and add a garnish. Same thing with if it's a stirred drink, then we're really ready to go if we've batched it all together ahead of time. And what I'll do is we'll take all the ingredients, I'll put them in a large format container, and then I will put them into their own bottles, so that I have them bottled and ready to go.
And a lot of it is understanding which drinks this works well with, because most drinks, whether they're stirred like a martini, shaken like a daiquiri, you can make ahead of time. There's certain ones where it doesn't work so well. For example, muddled drinks are kind of notoriously hard to do in a batch.
Yeah.
Anything with an egg white can be pretty tricky. So we try to really highlight those drinks that do work well to make ahead of time. And one other thing that I think John has kind of refined through years and years of doing this is if you're not shaking or stirring every drink to order, there are ways that you kind of work that into the recipe. For example, when you're making an old fashioned and you stir the drink over ice, you're not just chilling it down, you're actually melting some of the ice. And there's up to an ounce of water in that drink just from the ice melt.
Oh, wow.
And that really, it's more than you would think. It's
Yeah.
absolutely more than you would think. And that water is an important ingredient because it helps the different flavors integrate. And if
It opens up the flavors.
It opens up the flavors. And if you've had a stiff drink that's insufficiently stirred, it'll just taste boozy. It'll taste harsh.
If you've had that drink at the cocktail bar that comes to you and it's on the big rock and you taste it and it's just like, whoa, so boozy. And it's not till much later that it starts to open up and relax. It's because they didn't stir it.
They didn't stir it enough. Yeah. So something we'll do if we're making a lot of martinis or Manhattans at once, for example, is actually add water right into the cocktail base because we're to replicate what you would get from that stirring. And it's not about watering your drink down. It's just about getting the right.
It's
the
all
right
about
balance.
it's all about balance. Because water is the most important ingredient in any cocktail. I mean, it's in you can't have it without water.
Oh, nice. Do you have any recommendations for people? I mean, outside of buying your books, which I would recommend, but for somebody who wants to set up a bar and start doing drinks, what are some of the beginning things you can start doing?
Well, first is picking your base spirits, like what do you like to drink? And that might be an exploration in itself of, do I like bourbon or do I like rye whiskey? Do I like Scotch, Irish, or am I a tequila person?
I think that there's a temptation when setting up a home bar to kind of think of a catering bar at a wedding or something that you need a little bit of everything, but you don't necessarily.
Yeah.
If you start building from what you like or what you like to serve when you have friends over, if you're a margarita person, you might start with 2 great tequilas and a great orange liqueur. If you're a martini person, you might start with gin and vodka. But there's no reason to run out and buy one of everything unless you're just doing it for the picture and you can spend a lot of money. You don't need to that way. And then the other thing is just good equipment, just the way you wouldn't try to make cookies without an oven, a mixer, things like that.
A proper baking sheet.
Exactly. They're just very basic tools that you can get online or at any kitchen store that you really need as a bartender.
Yeah.
So jiggers in order to measure your liquid ingredients properly, shaking tins so that you can shake cocktails, a strainer so that you can strain out the ice. And I mean, those are if you have that, you can go a long way.
You don't need a mixing glass to stir a drink. You could do it in a cocktail shaker.
But it's a lot sexier.
But it's a lot, mixing glasses are sexy because they're, pretty.
You probably answered this question a million times, but I have to ask it just because I'm a largely martini fan. And everybody's heard the James Bond thing, I'd like a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. And, we always hear that. What is your idea of the perfect martini? How do you like it prepared?
Not shaken.
Not shaken. When you shake, you're aerating. So your shaken martini is going to be foamy, bubbly.
Weird.
And
not in the way that like a glass of champagne would be bubbly, but you are going to have small air bubbles in it. It's going to take away from the clarity of the drink
and the silkiness and the smoothness. Like it's for when you're stirring, we think of it like in the cooking would be like you're folding in ingredients as opposed to when you're shaking, you're whisking. Is the big difference. So for the perfect martini for me is a London Dry gin. Sorry, it's a gin drink with dry vermouths. There's been an explosion of new vermouths out there. You can get and the old school, a lot of old school ones like have upped their game. So vermouths really, America lost vermouth in Prohibition, and we never really got it back. Until now. And there are these fantastic Spanish vermouths that we love. So with vermouth is every vermouth is different because it's fortified wine infused with botanicals, herbs and botanicals. So they're all so unique and individual. So that's a place to really explore, is with vermouths, because then you have your vodka or your gin as your base, and then you can really play around with the vermouths, and each vermouth is going to give you a very different experience. And then a key ingredient to me for a gin martini is orange bitters. So for me, it's London dry gin, it's a great vermouth, orange bitters, and a lemon peel. They express the skin. In the citrus skin, there is the oil, so you express the skin side down over the top of the drink, and then rub the peel around the edge of the drink, and it'll put all that oil there. So your first experience of the drink will be smelling all that lemon oil before you even get to the drink. And then your last experience will be the lemon oil on your lips. So it's a whole like arc of the drink. Not that I'm too into it or anything.
And that's a perfect example of a drink that doesn't have many ingredients. I mean, if you look at a list, it's really just gin and vermouth, but then the bitters play such a role. The citrus garnish plays such a role. Chilling
it properly. And you need, again, that's a drink where, like Carey was saying, the stirring it over ice isn't just about cooling it down. It's about adding that water dilution to the drink, because that water is going to open up the flavors and smooth it down and make it more palatable.
But then I would add that one really fun thing about this book is, so that's John's ideal martini. I would say my ideal martini's pretty darn close. I think we like a lot of the same things, but we also have tons of recipes in this book for vodka drinkers. If you like a dirty vodka martini, that's awesome. And we give you a recipe for it. If one of my, kind of sentimental favorites is a martini named after my grandpa, Jack, who's had a Tanqueray martini every gosh darn day for the last 70 years or so,
and has had a written recipe for it for like 40 years.
And it's basically just a lot of Tanqueray over ice. But if you want a really, really strong gin martini,
it's good.
It's great. And that's how you make it.
A man after my own heart. I like that.
And we played around with stuff too, like the infusion with the dill and the blue cheese. It's like the technique is called fat washing, when you're adding something that has fat content in it. Which made a great one. And then, like everybody loves a dirty martini. And so then we just switched it up just a little bit by, instead of olive brine, using the brine from cornichon pickles, which came out really lovely.
That's a great drink.
Yeah, pickle holiday.
You mentioned bitters. Can we talk about bitters a little bit? There's been an explosion of bitters. I remember when I was young, there was always the ubiquitous little bottle of Agnostura bitters that was in every grocery store. And now I've seen all kinds of people making bitters and artisan bitters. Can we discuss that a little bit for people who might not be aware of that?
Sure. I've been making bitters for different bar programs for years. And there's an explosion of bitters, because what you're basically making an infusion, and you need high proof alcohol to do it. There are some brands like Fees that the base is glycerin, but like Angostura you can get it at the grocery store, but it's 45% alcohol.
Oh, wow.
You can really have a party with a bottle of
vanilla extract. It's mostly alcohol, so somehow it's licensed differently. But if you do a shot of Angostura, it'll knock you back.
But bitters is a great way to add a concentrated flavor that will add to the overall drink without having to have seven different ingredients added into it, because that one drop of bitters is going to affect your whole drink with all these flavors. And all the different bitters out there now are getting more and more focused. You get your burnt lemon bitters, or your orange and old-fashioned bitters, which tends to have a lot of like cinnamon, allspice, nutmeggy kind of qualities to it. Bitters are a lot of fun. And you can really add subtle nuance to a drink with a couple of dashes of bitters, and there's so many out there to explore with. One note on trying to taste bitters, because we actually taste more with our sense of smell than with our tongue.
And bitters are just so concentrated. If you try to taste them, it'll just knock out your palate. You can't really get much from it if you taste them straight.
Really intense. But if you put a drop of bitters in the palm of your hand and rub your hands together, and then smell your hand, like cup your hands and smell your hands, that'll really tell you what it's going to taste like by doing that, by smelling it.
Kind of waking all those aromatics up.
Yeah.
I was going to also ask you, we mentioned a little bit about like the thing about like having pitcher drinks and not stirring them. Are there any common mistakes that people make that are starting out in home bartending?
Several.
Water.
Yeah. Do you want to start there?
Well, what we were speaking of, water, ice isn't just there to get it cold, but it's to have that dilution and to have, there's usually about an ounce of a stirred or shaken drink, about an ounce of water comes out of that ice, and that's an integral part of the cocktail.
So if you shake a drink, it should be a shake with a lot of energy. If you stir it, it should be a good long stir, at least 15 seconds. Yeah. And that's not just chilling it. It's kind of introducing the water element as well. One other thing is that we love a good shortcut. And if there's a shortcut that's just as good as the original, that's great. There is no shortcut to fresh citrus juice. I should say a bit, like if you're living in Manhattan and there's somewhere that services bars that, juices 100 lemons fresh every morning, and you get that in a quart container and then you serve it in your drinks, that's fine. But things you can get at the grocery store, like in the little plastic containers that look like a lemon or a lime, it's just not even in the same world as fresh lemon juice. It's like the difference between packaged bread and a fresh baguette. They're just not. Like, rather than taking that shortcut, just choose a drink without citrus.
And you can juice the day. Different juices have different lifespans. Like watermelon juice, you got to use it immediately. Maybe a couple of hours. Same with cucumber. But lemon juice, you're going to get a couple of days if you have it refrigerated. And it's important when juicing citrus to strain out the pulp, because the pulp, the membranes, they're going to start decaying first, and so it shortens the lifespan of your juice. So if you get the pulp out, your juice in the refrigerator, your juice is going to last longer. Keep it sealed. You can always freeze it, but you get the pulp out for sure.
But if you're having a margarita party, either have friends over ahead of time, make them juice some limes, or do some prep work yourself that morning or the day before. But there's just no such thing as a good margarita without fresh lime juice. Yeah.
I have a lot of alcohol pet peeves. One of them is the grocery store jug margarita mix. I hate the sight of Fireball. Goldschlager, I think, was overused to the point of ridiculousness. Jägermeister got kind of really ridiculous there for a minute. Do you guys have any like pet peeves alcohol-wise?
Those are all valid.
Yeah, we're not disagreeing with you at all. Yeah. A lot of things in the early '90s that ended with teeny.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't drink a sour mix, like the industrial sour mix margarita. I feel like I have like a allergic reaction to it or something. It's just the whatever the sweetener. I mean, maybe it's high fructose corn syrup that they're using in it. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Well, this is something to say about sweetener is you use a sweetener, like Carey likes to say, sweeteners in cocktails is like salt in baking. If you don't have it, you can tell, and putting it, the best way to use it is sweetener is a binding agent. So it's going to take your different flavors, your citrus and your alcohol, and it's going to like bring them all together and hold them together. So when we use sweetener or sweeteners, agave, honey, dark sugar, cane sugar, it's just to bind the drinks together, not to quote unquote sweeten them.
And I think it's very understandable that a lot of people don't like sweet cocktails because, we'll pick on the 90s again, like for a long time, especially because of, pre-made mixes, there were some really sweet, really terrible cocktails. And a lot of what that sugar was doing was trying to disguise the quality of poor alcohol. And so nothing good comes of that. But I think, in our recipes, we think of all of them as balanced, and these are not what even, most cocktails have sweetener, but they're not what you would call sweet cocktails. And I think also, people tend to be wary of calories, which is fine. But we did the math at one point, and in an old fashioned, something like 14 of the calories end up coming from simple syrup and 160 come from whiskey. So you're not.
Yeah. Our joke is, if you're worried about the calories, have a glass of water.
Yeah, don't drink.
Like that. I want to ask you, are there any trends in bartending right now that you're really excited about, that you love, the things that are going on right now?
This takes us a little bit away from the subject of our book, but there's been an absolute explosion in really high quality, either non-alcoholic or very low alcoholic cocktail ingredients.
And base spirits.
And base spirits, kind of
alcohol-free bourbon, alcohol-free tequila.
For a long time, those things kind of seemed like an oxymoron, but now people are just really putting serious thought and R&D into them. And there's some great ones out there, and it's really fun because, there are plenty of reasons people don't drink, whether permanently or on a given day. And there's no reason that, non-alcoholic drinks just need to be juice and soda, which they were for the longest time.
And I think it's pretty standard now. I think you'd find on most cocktail menus now,
you'll have sophisticated non-alcoholic
it used to be just low ABV, low alcohol drinks, but now you really have to have alcohol-free cocktails on your menu. And it's not just ginger ale. Yeah, and it's not ginger ale. Yeah, it's sophisticated and thoughtful.
So it's really fun to see the creativity in that. And, just kind of being more inclusive. Everyone should be able to get a drink they like at the bar or at someone's house while they're entertaining.
Circling back to the book, I want to ask, when people are creating variation on when they're using the basic template and then they're creating variation, what should they be thinking about?
I think the word you just used, template, is exactly right, because when you kind of look at classic cocktails, you can often break them down into their component parts. So for example, we talk a lot about the old fashioned in this respect. You have the bulk of the drink is usually whiskey, and you have some kind of sweetener, some kind of bitter, and some kind of citrus twist. And if you just look at those different components and you understand what each of them are doing, then you can start playing around with what you like. So for example, if you've had an old fashioned made with Angostura bitters and you do see those burnt lemon bitters in the store and you're interested in trying it, kind of swapping things like that are like for like within the context of the recipe, I think is kind of a good place to get started.
And if I may, just since we're talking about old fashioned, I thought you might find this interesting, is the name, the old fashioned, the original drink was just called a cocktail. Back, like, this is, colonial into the early 1800s, when you had juleps and crustas and sangarees, and a cocktail was any kind of booze, some form of water, a bittering agent of some kind, a sweetener of some kind, and a citrus peel. Through time, it became, can you make me a cocktail the old-fashioned way? And then it became the old-fashioned. When cocktails started becoming the term for everything, then it was like, well, make me the old-fashioned kind of cocktail. But it has, and this again is like the template. It's like, okay, you can have any kind of base. You can have a gin, old-fashioned, any kind of sweetener. It could be maple syrup, and then any kind of bitter, and then any kind of citrus peel. It could be grapefruit, and then you need the water. And originally, it didn't have to be ice, but then when ice became available all around the country, we started using the ice to add the water into the cocktail. And it's the same thing like with any, like another great template is a margarita. You have tequila, lime juice, orange liqueur. Like this is 3 ingredients, but you can really change it up. You could take out the orange liqueur. There's a great margarita out of San Francisco called the Tommy's Margarita that is tequila, lime juice, and just agave nectar, and that's it. And it's really bright and I don't know if tart's the right word, but I guess bright's the right word.
Vivacious.
Vivacious. But in that you can switch around. You can have you could do an añejo. You could do, again, dark sugar for your sweetener. You can just really play around. Blood orange juice, yeah. Just really play around within the categories of the ingredients.
Can you sum up one takeaway you'd like to have for the readers who get the book?
Drink what you like.
And
have fun. I think that because mixology has become such a sophisticated enterprise in the last, I don't know, what we say, 15 years or so, people do get really cerebral about it, and that's awesome. Like there are, extremely smart, focused people kind of pushing the boundaries of what cocktails are, and that's great. And at the same time, the average person really just kind of wants a drink. And if you want a raspberry mojito, no one should turn up their nose at you for liking that. If you want this kind of martini versus that kind of martini, you should drink what you like. Life's too short to be judging yourself or anyone else for their drink preferences. So we hope that in this book, there's just a little something for everyone. When I think about my own favorite cookbooks, it's not necessarily that I make every single recipe from them. It's that I've found a few that just really, really stay with me over time. And so I think our hope is that people will find, whatever their style of drinking, they'll find a drink or two they really grab onto in this book.
One of the things I like about the book is the format. There's space on the page to make notes.
Right all over it.
So, write all over it, circle what you like. My hope would be you tried this drink, you tried that drink, you tried this drink, and you really liked an ingredient in drink A, but you like the base in drink B. It's like, I want people to be able to just make their own drink, take this, take that, take the other thing, and write your own recipe.
Now that the book will be out of this airing, and I want to mention to listeners that this will have links to the new book and their previous book in the bio. What's next for you guys?
That's a great question.
That's a good question.
We still do spirits writing and consulting together.
Yeah.
This book has been several years in the making.
Pandemic got in the way of it.
Yeah, with a lot of people. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, we had a baby in the middle of it. Who's now 2.
Yeah,
so there's
that got in the way a little. He got in the way a little bit.
That happens, yeah.
So we're still experimenting with recipes, doing some writing stuff like that, but no major plans for a next book yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Well, great. Are you guys going to be touring doing any book signings in the Bay Area?
We are. We have events planned at Omnivore Books in San Francisco.
Of course, the best.
The best, like everyone. And then a big launch party up in Sebastopol, and then we're doing cocktails for Kepler's Books holiday party down in Menlo Park.
Nice, also good.
Yes, also some classic stores there, so we're excited.
Fern Bars, what day is that?
That's November 18th, and we can send all this over.
November 18th at Fern Bar in the Barlow in Sebastopol.
Oh, great. Yeah, if you send me a list, I'll put that in the bio as well, so people that are local can attend those. That'd be really cool.
Awesome.
Great.
I want to really thank you guys for being on the podcast. Carey and John, thank you for being here. You guys are wonderful guests. I really appreciate this. I want to recommend this book to everybody who wants to do some drinks over the holidays. There's got a really good selection here. It's a wonderful, inventive, fun book. You're going to have a good time with it. And I want to say it again, it would make the perfect gift for anybody. So there you go. A great gift guide for the holidays, all in one. Carey and John, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks so much, Dean. This was really fun.
Appreciate it.
That was my conversation with John McCarthy and Carey Jones. Their new book, Every Cocktail Has a Twist, is out through all media outlets. You can get it through the link in the bio, as you can also get their previous bartending book as well. We do also have links if you're living in the Bay Area, so you can go to some of their events. They're having one in Omnivore Books coming up next week. You're going to want to check that out if you live locally. Omnivore Books is also just a magnificent bookstore to visit, so you can get two for bring a lot of money because you're going to want to spend it there. It's a great place. Next week, we're going to be having Las Vegas local Elisa Chavatone. She's going to be talking about her books, Italian Cookbook for Two, Vegetarian Ketogenic Cookbook for Beginners, Food with Spirit, Alcohol-Infused Recipes. It is out now, a new book, and that's going to be next week. I had a wonderful conversation with Alicia. She's somebody that I really enjoy having on the podcast. I'll be looking forward to having on again. That's going to be next week. Until then, I hope you guys are having a wonderful week and a wonderful holiday this weekend as well. For all of you, if you're a veteran like I am, happy Veterans Day. I hope you're having a really wonderful weekend with that with your families. Until next week, I'll be seeing you at the library.